Elaborate. Okay, here's a cool one. In this story, a man and wife spot a bizarre spider-like humanoid creature. I have been searching for months trying to figure out what it is my wife and I saw. This happened around Labor Day, 2014, while camping in the eastern Sierras in the Mono Village area. I have been coming to the same area to camp and fish for over 30 years. The Twin Lakes Resort in Bridgeport, California, right on the Cali, Nevada border, about an hour north of Mono Lake. My parents brought me when I was a kid and now I bring my family every year, so I'm very familiar with the wildlife. I've seen mountain lions, Sierra moose, bald eagles, mountain goats, osprey, king snakes, the list goes on. One morning, my wife and I were headed to the creek for some daybreak fishing. The time must have been close to 5:30 a.m. and it was still very dark out with a slight fog. This trip is about a quarter mile from cabin to creek, and it's always full of nocturnal animals headed home after raiding the local campgrounds. Like I'd done 100 times before, I kept an eye out, slowing down occasionally to hit the high beams and illuminate the beasts with their reflective eyes. This time my lights caught something crossing the road that did not have reflective nocturnal eyes, so I slowed down immediately and tried my best to identify what it was. It was hard because the thing was moving very low, its belly just inches from touching the ground. It appeared to be very pale, or white, so I thought it was a goat or sheep. Well, when my high beams hit this thing, it turned its long neck and glared at us and almost shook its head as if we pissed it off and didn't want to be seen at all. At first, it had been crossing the street diagonally headed our way, but then it turned, heading in our direction. My wife had seen it from the start, and I wanted to make sure she was seeing and observing the same thing that I was. I asked her, "What is that?" Now the first thing that I couldn't understand, besides the way it was crawling so low to the ground, was that the legs didn't look right. Its knees seemed to be backwards, but it was running on them. Because it was moving so fast, I thought maybe it was an escaped sheep or goat that had broken knees and was running for its life. As it came closer and closer towards us, I could hardly take my eyes off its freaky legs. I'm still to this day puzzled by how they were working. I haven't ever seen any mammal move that way. The closest thing I could liken it to would be a crab or an insect. The front and back legs moved together in unison. There was no bounce or gallop to the creature's movement. Its torso, which was about 4 feet long, stayed entirely straight, low to the ground, as its legs/arms did all the work. To me it looked like a puppet moved along on marionette strings. So unreal, like one of H.R. Geiger's alien creatures when they're shown climbing around super fast with only their arms and legs moving. When my wife finally responded to my question, all she said was, "What the hell?" We saw it from maybe 50 yards away to about 20 yards. You could see that it had no fur at all, just pale, sinewy skin stretched over long, skinny, well-defined limbs. What I thought at first were broken knees were actually very long, skinny fingers, or claws, about a foot long or more. The torso was maybe the size of a large goat's, but it also had broad shoulders, very human. It made me think that possibly this thing normally walks upright. In fact, that's what my wife kept pointing out afterwards to me. The shoulders made it look human. All this was freaky, but we both stared intensely, trying to figure out what it was. As it got closer, its face became more and more defined. At first I could tell that the face and head didn't make sense, but I thought, well, it looks strange now, but when you get face to face you'll see a familiar goat snout, or canine nose, or jackrabbit face. But no. The nose I was looking for was not there. It was just a flat opening with 2 nose holes high up on the face. No ears. Just small holes on the side of its head. Its brow ridge was very pronounced, but the skull was smaller than a human's, more like the size of a chimp's. However, it had a large, protruding chin. But this part I totally don't get at all. From a distance, although they reflected no light, I had seen the creature's large eye sockets. As it came nearer and nearer, I saw the color red in them. Not like a light that was glowing, but like many veins, or like a red membrane that was covering the sockets. Now this blew me away. I thought, how is this thing turning its head to glare at me with no eyes? Was it a ghost? But as it passed us and I came to a complete stop, I saw it zip into the chaparral and kick up dust. This thing had been flesh and blood at least for the 15 to 20 seconds that we observed it. I might add there was no smell or anything else odd that we noticed. I should have taken pictures of the tracks but did not think to do it because I was very puzzled and thought maybe we had witnessed a ghost because of how unreal it appeared. I was also with my family, and I didn't want to put them in any danger. If I had been alone, I would have stepped out onto the trail to investigate. What this thing was doing so close to a campground puzzles me. My wife said that this thing seemed intelligent to her. She got the sense that it was mad at us for discovering it. The mouth was closed, and it had tightly closed lips that almost looked like a large smile. I didn't see any teeth, but its skull was that of a predator's, not a prey animal. The eye sockets were positioned on the front, not the sides. I have seen a great many extraordinary things in my life, and I consider myself a great eyewitness. I don't jump to conclusions. I just observe, make notes, and evaluate later. My wife was a bigger skeptic than me. Her upbringing exposed her early on to how harsh reality can be, and she had no room for any flights of imagination. Well, now she's a believer, and she's afraid to this day of what is walking around those Sierra Nevada mountains.
Alright, X, I'm gonna tell you the story of the Shambling Man. This happened last summer, but I've put off telling the story because I was always too lazy to actually type it up. It's Halloween and I'm waiting on my laundry as I write this, so I have nothing better to do. I'll start posting once it's all written up. I wanna hear some opinions on this thing, because I still have no idea what the hell to think. No idea what the creature could be, no real idea as to whether it's even dangerous. Nothing. A little background knowledge. I changed schools after my freshman year in high school, but I still spent a lot of time with my friends from my first high school. I'm in my first year of college now, and I still talk to these guys almost daily. They live about 30 minutes away from my parents' house, which is in a Minnesotan suburb about 20 minutes outside of the Twin Cities. Fairly populous. The town my friends live in is about 50 minutes away, and is a mix of suburbs and farmland. Much smaller population. Be me. June of last summer. Heading home from hanging out with friends from high school. Decide to take the back roads instead of the freeway. Back roads from friend's house to mine are pretty scenic, mostly cutting through fields and prairies with the occasional wooded section. Also passes a lot of farms. About 10 minutes down the road after passing a few farms is this dinky little sub-1,000 population town, complete with a dirt road and everything. Rolling up towards an intersection there when I see something massive in the road. This big, pale, humanoid figure is basically Army crawling across the road in front of my car. Looks up at me. This thing looks like it has the frame of an anorexic NBA player with skin that sagged like it recently had a major liposuction procedure that took it from 300 pounds to 120. Start braking when another car comes over the hill towards me. Has those bright ass white headlights, very clearly has their brights on. Instinctively look up at it for a second to make sure I'm not gonna hit it and then look back. Down at the thing in the road. It's freaking gone. The scariest thing about the creature wasn't its appearance, but the way it moved. Its arms move like the metal thing on the outside of steam engines that drives the wheels, pick related. That was the first sighting. I convinced myself for a while that it was just a trick of the light with some fog or whatever. That was before the second encounter. 2 months pass. Now mid-August. By this point, the creature had sort of become a thing of legend among our friend group. Friends came up with the name, the Shambling Man, even though it was kinda just crawling, not shambling. Regardless, I had to admit the name was kind of catchy. The name ended up sticking. We sometimes refer to it as Chandler the Shambler, or just Chandler, for short. Anyway, end up going to the Mall of America for the day to hang out with friend and his girlfriend. His girlfriend lives with him and his family for reasons that it wouldn't be polite to go into. Decide midway through the trip to spend the night at aforementioned friend's house. We drove to the mall separately because it was sort of a last-minute plan. Drive to my house to grab clothes and stuff. Drive to friend's house along the same back roads as before. As I pass the place where I first saw the Shambler, this horrible feeling overtakes me. Eyes actually tear up a bit, feel kind of sick to my stomach. None of this compared to the feeling of utter dread that hit me like a damn bat, though. Nearly hyperventilate before I'm able to get a grip. Normally, I'm a pretty composed person. I don't get scared very easily, and at this point I had driven on this road like 20 times since the encounter. Basically, this wasn't some ordinary fear that you get when you do something scary. This wasn't some freaking roller coaster style stomach sickness. This was out of nowhere. This was survival instinct. Fear, and I was terrified. Finally, the feeling passes. Keep driving down the road, trying not to go flying into the ditch as I wipe tears out of my eyes. I'm a little confused, and very surprised. I never break down like this. About 5 minutes away from friend's house, look back and forth between my driver's side window and the windshield greater than watch the trees and brush slowly move by to calm my nerves a bit. That's when I see it. The freaking Shambling Man is standing next to a tree on the side of the road. Just standing there. Staring directly at me. At least, I think it is. I can't really see its eyes, but its head is pointed right at me. My heart drops and I speed up so I can get to friend's house. His sister lets me in. Friend and his girlfriend haven't gotten there yet. Bring my stuff to the basement. Call friend. Where are you? They're out hitting Pokestops at a park nearby. Sort of just shake my head as he's talking and interrupt. I saw it again. He's confused. I saw the Shambling Man again. Brief pause. I'll be right there. He gets back, grabs 2 combat knives for him and myself. Let's go freaking find this thing. Exploring the area is a whole another story, but we didn't actually find the thing. I had my friend stand in the exact spot I saw the creature in, though. From what I could tell, the thing was several inches taller than my friend. My friend is 6 feet 7 inches. While we didn't find the Shambler, we did find this weird ghetto shelter lean-to and a really eerie, foggy clearing that we thought was a pond at first before we noticed a mound in the middle with a single, solitary tree on top. The most notable thing that happened was at the end, though. Friend and myself. Walking along a horse trail parallel to the road with a 10 or 15 foot buffer of brush and trees between the two. Friend's girlfriend is waiting in the car across the street in the entrance of a dog park with a set of simple instructions. Keep the doors locked. Keep the car running. If you see us running, let us in and get us the out. Call if you see anything. So we make our way down this horse trail and we see the car at the end of the path. There's the car. I hope GF is doing all right. Keep walking. Suddenly, terror. Stop walking. Friend turns around. What are you doing? Single quote. That's not our car. What do you mean? GF is waiting with the car running, remember? Single quote. Dude, we parked on the other side of the road. We had to cross it to get here. Oh crap. See a guy walk through the light from the car to the side closest to us. Can barely hear him talking to someone else. They haven't seen us yet. Whisper to friend. I'm gonna count to 4. When I get to 4, book it to the middle of the brush where we came in and duck down. 1. The men get closer. 2. I can hear their voices still, but they've begun to talk more quietly. 3. Pause. Heart was hammering. 4. We sprint into the brush and drop. We breathe quietly for what feels like 20 minutes, but was probably more like 20 seconds. Finally, I lift my head a bit to look around. I point towards the road. Friend nods. We sprint across the street to his car like a damn bear is hot on our heels. Peel out of the dog park. Other car pulls onto the road and starts following us. We get to a stoplight and I turn around. Car is gone. What the hell? Make it back safely. We plan on going back to look around again come Thanksgiving break, but that's what I've got for now.
Innawoods Nope thread. This happened to me about 2 months ago. Be summer. Be bored as hell. Alright, let's go Innawoods. Decide to take my SIG 553 with me cause why the hell not? Walk for like an hour enjoying nature and crap. Notice lots of deer skeletons. What the hell, probably those damn coyotes. Suddenly get to a clearing, standing at the edge of a huge field. Notice of in the distance, maybe 1/3 mile, a group of deer just chillin'. Alright, cool, free dindins. Solid snake mode activates. Sneak up pretty close. Hold up, WTF, those aren't deer. About 15 freaking dudes with deer heads on them wearing weird black robes in the middle of some circular symbol. They are gathered around a dead deer. Watch em for like 5 minutes. Seems like they're doing some ritual. Suddenly one looks straight at me and yells something. They all start running towards me. I don't know how those deer helmets look heavy. Nope the hell out and start running. Scared crapless, adrenaline out the wazoo. LOLO, damn, wait, I got a 5.56 rifle with me. Turn around, take a few shots behind me. One hits home and one of the bastards hit the floor. Keep running, eventually lose em. Go home, lock the doors, eat pizza, and jack off. I haven't noticed anything unusual, so I'm pretty sure I'm safe from some sorta evil deer curse they could have put on me. My main concern is that I'm gonna end up getting arrested for the homicide of some hippie or some crap. Seriously doubt a guy could have survived a shot to the abdomen, especially out that deep in the woods.
Y'all ever gone through a freaking portal? I don't know what else to call it, but it happened to me. Last December, graduating from college. Recently turned 21. Decide to grab a beer after the ceremony. Google brewery because I'm gonna treat myself to something nice. There's one not even 10 minutes down the road. Amu to some sweet craft beer. The road quickly leads from busy downtown into a more isolated area. Dark as hell, very few buildings. Looks like Hobo Central. Road slopes down really low and travels under an overpass. It slopes back up, steep incline. When the road levels out again, I can see that there's nothing but a long empty road for what looks like miles. To my left and right it's like a barren wasteland, literally no buildings or anything. Spooked. Check my phone and service has been lost. What the hell kinda Twilight Zone crap is this? I turn around and head back under the overpass. Come out the other side and see the city ahead of me. Phone has service again. Pull over, thinking should I just go home? Nope, let's try this again. I deserve that freaking beer, damn it. Go under the overpass. When I come out the other side, it's a totally different scene from before. The brewery is there, a few cars in the parking lot, some people on the patio, restaurants nearby. You have arrived at your destination. Thanks, Siri. I go in and buy a strong beer. Leave, but avoid the route under the overpass. Try to tell my friends later and they say I must have been wasted. Freaking a-holes. Please tell me someone here has a story about this so I don't feel crazy. Somewhat related, I think. Be 13/14. Be on school camp for a week. Night game of find the lantern without getting caught in a woods. Be way too damn serious about it. Struggling to get through underbrush. Get through it. Notice things are off. No moons or stars but not pitch dark. Low hanging ground fog. Trees look way too tall. No service but phones were crap back then, 2001. Sounds have all died out except for wind. Start to freak out. Find underbrush. Go through it again. Sound stars, moon and service return. Teachers are going out of their minds looking for me. Claim I was gone for 2 hours. Still have no idea what the hell happened. I was going to write this out full text, but it got too freaking long. Even as Greentext, it's freaking long. Work as GS camp counselor 1 year thanks to friend. Partnered with girl from Sweden named Eva. Given basic kit for camp, including fire shovel, hatchet, electronic bullhorn, and electric camp lanterns. No radio or the like, campsites are all within shouting distance of one another. Tents are all platform type, built into hillsides so each has a balcony. Tents 1 and 8 have steepest drop off and best views but are the most isolated. Eva and I stayed in the tent with the star. Only 5 tents occupied any time, girls are allowed to pick their tents. Blue trails on map were virtually impassable, which meant anyone coming or going had to pass our tent to get to the others. 3 batches of campers, age 10 to 11, come and go uneventfully. Eva complains the heat is giving her weird nightmares. Joke that it's all the preteen hormones and boy talk stressing her out. 4th batch of campers comes in. 2 girls claim to see a bear in our latrines Wednesday night of camp. Huge bear, had to stoop to fit under awning. Eva and I find nothing other than a few open doors. Not supposed to be anything bigger than a raccoon in the area anyway, dismiss it as overactive imaginations. Next night, blood-curdling screams and safety whistle blasts from next campsite over. Eva and I get out of the tent to find out WTF is going on. Hear something running through the woods up the hill from our campsite, but don't see anything. Campers are all understandably freaked out. Go tent to tent calming them down. Next morning, talk to counselor from next camp over. Find out 2 tents of girls claimed to have seen a bear. Or Bigfoot. They're like 9 and can't agree on what they saw. Camp decides it might be a bear and take up all contraband food to prevent it from sticking around. Weekends normally and campers go home, meeting is called on bear safety for all counselors. New camp week starts with next batch of campers. Things gets worse. 2 campsite trash boxes are trashed overnight the first night of the week. Heavy boxes with padlocks, designed to keep large animals out. One's lid is almost completely pried off, the other is dented to all hell. Instructed to bring garbage to incinerator each night and leave lock boxes open after that. More sightings of the bear from campers during the day, but none can be confirmed and are put down to paranoia. Next night, campers in my campsite screaming bloody murder. Eva and I tear out of the tent and run through the woods to tent 8. She managed to grab the hatchet. I've got a lamp and the bullhorn. Almost break my damn ankle on a tree root. Eva and I run to the tent, can't get in because idiots used square knots instead of slip knots. Hear more screaming and crying, finally get into the tent. It came over the balcony. It tried to come in. All three girls freaking out, finally get them calm. They'd heard something snuffling around under their tent, and had tried to stay quiet, hoping it would go away. Screaming had started when they figured out it was trying to get into the tent. Girls had braced their spare mattress at end of tent to keep a sleepwalking bunkmate from falling over the edge of the platform. Tied square knots to keep her from wandering out at night. Mattress is smeared with mud, but no claw marks like you'd expect from a bear trying to invade. Tell them to get their crap that will go to our tent for the rest of the night. More freaking screams, this time on the other side of the camp. Screams mixed with safety whistle blasts. Can see lights from tent 1 and assume that's who's losing their mind. Tent 8 girls don't want us to leave, one is just sobbing and trying to hide under a cot. Eva and I run across the campsite in the dark again after telling them to get in the tent and tie it. Back up. No idea what we were going to do with a hatchet and bullhorn against a bear. Are we freaking stupid? Yes. We're freaking stupid. Blasting the siren button on the bullhorn the whole way across camp, hoping it'll scare the bear off. Get to the tent, 4 girls inside all with the same story as the first tent. Girls were already awake from the first round of screaming and had their flashlights and whistles out already. Heard something under their platform, and started screaming their little hearts out when it came up the platform. Said it ran away when the siren started blasting from the bullhorn. Check around the platform the best we can in the dark. No signs of a bear or any animal in the area, nor any tracks under the platform. One girl claims the bear had a white face and long, scrawny arms. 2 other girls insist that was just a reflection from the flashlights. Last girl said she was too scared to look. All 4 girls agree it was huge, with arms spread wider than the tent platform. That's it. Enough of this crap. Take them with us through the camp, making lots of noise as we walk. Get the girls singing one of their chants and blast the siren for good measure. Go tent to tent, rounding up our campers and tell them to all hold hands. Lead them down to the outdoor lodge where meals and crafting stuff takes place. Sandra and Leanne, organizers on admin duty for the week, are already up and waiting for us. Sandra keeps the girls busy assembling cots in the lodge while Leanne talks to us and we figure out WTF to do. She agrees that the bear situation is getting too dangerous and goes with Leanne to call in the other campers and counselors. We get alternately praised for rescuing our girls and chewed out for going after a bear without proper protection. While they're gone, Eva tells me that the dreams she's been having are about a big, shaggy monster coming into our tent every night. It's big, black, and has a white human face in the middle of the fur. Tell her not to screw around, and try to get the kids to sleep. She insists that she's serious. Leave Eva to try to get the kids to sleep. Other campsites start rolling in with their girls. Not enough beds for almost 100 people, so bodies everywhere on the floor. Next morning rolls around and other organizers show up for breakfast. They had no freaking clue we were in the lodge until they showed up. No sign of Sandra and Leanne. Sandra last seen on her way back to organize more cots. Leanne last seen on her way back with the last group of girls to come in. Organizers disturbed by this fact for obvious reasons, park rangers and police called in. The rest of the day is pretty much chaos. Girls are taken back to their tents to get their shit and clear out one tent at a time, with no fewer than 3 counselors in attendance. Police and rangers taking witness statements and investigating tents and campsites. Rumor that they're bringing in helicopter and dogs, but never saw either. Parents are called and come pick up their kids. Organizers arranged to take international counselors home with them until flights can be rescheduled. No sign of bears, no sign of anything bigger than a raccoon, like we were told to begin with. No sign of Sandra or Leanne. A couple of days later, a black bear so suffering from rabies was destroyed by animal control a couple of counties south of the campsite. During the necropsy, they confirmed rabies and also found partially digested human remains. There was apparently nothing that could be used to identify the remains, but the conclusion was that this bear had been terrorizing the camp, and had attacked and eaten at least part of one of the missing organizers. The rest of the remains were never found. Given Eva's reoccurring dream, and what the girls had said about the thing having a white face and gangly arms, I'm not fully convinced about it being the bear's doing. Haven't been camping since. Also, was an idiot and forgot to attach the map to the first post. So it's on this one. All of the tents were within about 100 yards of the tent we stayed in, but the paths were really rough cut and uneven. The fact that I didn't break that ankle was pretty miraculous.
Be father in the mid-1990s. Work for state police. Get assigned to go undercover in a branch of some regional militia. About a dozen full members. Fool around Innawoods for a few months. Finally hear some guy cooking up a plan to bomb a judge. Half the militia is on board with it. Dad is a bit shocked, as most of them seemed normal enough. A couple guys leave the group. Plot keeps advancing. State police decide they have enough evidence for a case. Plan to arrest everyone at the meeting after next. Dad is at the meeting 1 week before the scheduled raid. Suddenly, doors get kicked in. Everybody gets arrested. State police confused as hell. Dad later finds out that the guy who started the plot was ATF. Club president was FBI. 2 sheriff's deputies in the rank and file. U.S. Marshals involved somehow. Whole militia branch was founded as an FBI honeypot. Dad's face when the whole thing gets buried out of embarrassment.
B19. Got a Greentext story if anyone's interested of an encounter I had about 5 years ago. Spring turkey hunt with Dad and Grandpa. Peabody Coal Fields, Western KY. Dad drops me off into a pine barren final evening to try and shoot a gobbler before they get to roost. Set up close to a small bank overlooking a clear side, we saw them leaving from here this morning. 40 minutes, nothing. Almost dark. Hear sudden heavy footfalls. Thump 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 thump. About 50 yards away, a big-ass wolf dog the size of a cow is wandering around. I have the weirdest boner right for some reason unknown to man. Wolf dog starts to mess with an old beer can. I am seriously paralyzed in denial of what I am seeing. Not a coyote, I've hunted many coyotes before. This thing is freaking giga wolf. It starts to move closer to me. Nope. I bolt down the hill, I hear a snarl behind me, I keep face forward to avoid cutting the crap out of me on brayers. I can hear behind me though. Jump the ditch line and roll onto the gravel road, 12 gauge at the ready. Giga wolf is just about to jump the ditch. I pull the trigger. A holy orgasm of fire erupts from my 12 GA. 312-inch shell. Feel like a badass for exactly a millisecond. Pump another round in, about to fire when I see it turn tail and run back up the hill. I sigh in relief, and I head straight to our RV to tell Dad. He doesn't believe me, says I probably just saw a deer. Grandpa kind of does, says anything could be out there with as much woods as there are. Did I see some ancient lycanthrope Indian monster, /x/? Thump 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 thump. I have the weirdest boner right for some reason unknown to man. A holy orgasm of fire erupts from my 12 GA. 312-inch shell. Pump another round in. I sigh in relief. Did you intend for this story to be so erotic?
I can contribute some OC to this thread. Hopefully not too screwed up. Be out hiking by in the Mogollon. It's the summer so the whole area is a little bit dry and sparse. A hell of a lot better than the valley but not exactly comfy. Come across a beautiful green meadow. Greenest patch of grass I've ever seen growing in Arizona naturally. Bunch of flowers growing. Not much of a botanist but blues and red, not just the standard desert yellows. I'm absolutely awestruck. The greens, the cool breeze, the lovely smell. I can't resist stopping mid-walk to rest a bit. Sit under a tree and to my surprise I actually start dozing off. It's really hard for me to fall asleep, struggled with it my whole life. I've actually been having some trouble sleeping on this whole camping trip, so this is a godsend. Decide to just go with it. Wake up a few hours later and go back to camp. Weather stays beautiful for that night, and despite the nap earlier I sleep like a baby. Get up early the next day, start packing up. Head home. Trip is comfy but long. Just listening to the radio. Time doesn't seem real. The radio starts playing songs that I loved as a teenager but never got that popular. Oingo Boingo hits mostly. I feel like I need to stop but I can't figure out why. Gas meter is staying full, radio is playing great tunes, I don't feel hungry, thirsty, or sleepy. Suddenly radio gets staticky. Can hear a voice in the background but I can't tell what it's saying. Interrupts the moment enough that I realize how weird this seems. Gas gauge hasn't gone down even a tick. Not a single radio ad has played, but I've been driving for hours. The static goes away, so I fiddle with the knob trying to figure out if I can tune into it. All of the channels are the same music, changing button does nothing. Creeped out enough that I hit the power button, but radio doesn't stop playing. Static hits again and I can make out a voice saying, "Anon, you are not awake." Suddenly realize that I never woke up earlier. This has all been a dream. Wake up in that field from before starving with my mouth bone dry. My skin hurts, sun's been shining on me for hours, got blisters on my nose. The field's still there but I can see that the flowers are all growing from dead things. Elk and deer and bears, all covered in flowers, just rotting out in the sun. Smells so bad my body tries to vomit but I'm too dehydrated to do anything but gag. Feel so weak, head is pounding, I'm starving but the thought of eating makes me feel sick. Take some little sips of my now hot water bottle and stagger back to my camp. Just focus on getting hydrated first, then try to get some food in me. Skin is too sunburned to stand more than a breeze. I'm not sure how long I spent in that field, but it must have been a long time. Manage to pack up my crap and head back. First station I get to I head in just to ask what day it is. Apparently I spent 2 days in that field. I don't know how much longer I would have lasted out there before the desert cooked me. Still not sure if that was some sort of weird predatory plant, or a haunted clearing or what, but I still get a little nervous when I see wildflowers.
Here's a cool Florida story. It's historical. When the Spanish arrived in Florida, they wiped out an Indian tribe. But they weren't able to kill the chief because he was a gigantic, fit dude. Finding himself without a tribe to lead, the chief traveled deep into the Florida swamp like freaking Rambo with a plan to wage guerrilla warfare on the Spanish. Over many years, people began to disappear there, probably murdered by the chief. Spanish soldiers exploring the swamp disappeared, never to be seen again. Pirates who tried to escape justice by hiding in the swamp disappeared without a trace. A manager of the Spalding trading post also vanished there. In 1838 and 1863, US disappeared there. The last documented disappearance was in 1904. A young surveyor failed to return from the area. Obviously this is way too long for one man to hide out there and kill all of these people, but some say the chief refused to die. He hides out there to this day, revenge for his tribe on anyone who travels through his swamp. The Spanish also massacred the French settlers when they arrived. These guys were brutal. They took a French Huguenot monk, a kinda Protestant monk, and tied him to a tree and tortured the poor guy until he died. Now, in several online directories of haunted places, There are references made to a glowing figure who appears on a densely wooded street called Gobbler Road. Pic related.
Grandpa used to tell me this sort of tall tale growing up. I can't do it justice, so I'm gonna just tell a condensed version of it. Grandpa is 14, living in the country. He has a best friend named Daniel. They steal a bottle of whiskey one day and look around for a place to stash it. Stumble upon a cave that's sort of hidden. It becomes their new hideout. Lots of days spent drinking and shooting the breeze in the cave. Then one day Daniel moves away. Before he does, he and Grandpa visit the cave one last time. After they get a little tipsy, they do that bro crap where they tell each other that they love each other and make a pact to remain lifelong friends. Then they go their separate ways. Grandpa stops visiting the cave and in time he sort of forgets about it. Eventually, he grows up and marries my grandma. 10 years pass. He's still living in his hometown when he gets a visit from Daniel randomly. The two fall right back into their old friendship. Grandpa busts out some whiskey and the two talk till late in the evening. Daniel mentions the cave, asks Grandpa if he remembers the last time they were there. Grandpa says yes. Daniel then tells Grandpa that when he first got into town he immediately went to the cave. He wanted to see if anything had changed. He found it, and as he approached he heard voices. When I heard them, I got scared. Grandpa asks why. Daniel says, because they were our voices. Grandpa asks Daniel what he means, sort of in disbelief. Daniel says, it was us. I heard us in there making our pact. Kind of a tall tale, but the way Grandpa told it always gave me goosebumps.
Okay, I don't tell this story very often because it sounds freaking crazy, even to me, and I swear on my scrotum this actually happened. I lived in the foothills of Central California at the time. It was fall and had been raining down in the valley off and on for a couple days. That usually means that it gets foggy in the early morning in the valley below us and in the evening the fog lifts and gets blow up into the foothills. I was driving home late after hanging out with some friends and the long, narrow, heavily curved road was socked in by fog. Visibility was a little over 100 feet or so. I came around a corner and into a straightaway I'd driven 1,000 times before when I saw something laying in the middle of the lane going the opposite direction. At first I thought it was a deer, and that maybe it had been hit by a car. It wouldn't have been the first time something like that happened. I was a vet tech at the time, and there was a wildlife rehab center just up the road that I was going to be driving right past anyway. I was only doing about 30 miles per hour when I rounded the corner and the road had a slight uphill grade at that point, so I took my foot off of the gas and slowed down to see if the steer needed help. I was almost right on top of it when I realized that if this was a deer, something was very wrong with it. The fur was too long. The shape was wrong too. It was still laying down with its left side facing my car and the head was down and pointed away from me. When I was about 2 or 3 car lengths from it, it swung its head around. I thought, oh crap, it's a coyote. Some asshole hit a coyote and left it here. But I still felt like something was wrong about it. Its eyes shone in my headlights and it was looking right at me. I was trying to figure out how I was going to safely capture an injured coyote and get it into my car and drive a couple miles up the road to drop it off when I stopped just short of it. I wanted to keep it in my headlights so I could see it, when it did something strange. It stood up. It sort of unfolded itself and it didn't stand up on 4 legs. It stood up on 2 legs. My blood went completely cold. I froze and, I'm sorry to say, panicked. It stood at least 6 feet tall on 2 legs with undeniably canine features and stared into my windshield. In my panic I slammed my foot on the gas and tried to speed away, but my car was a piece of crap and there was the uphill grade. It took me more than a couple of seconds to accelerate away from it and it was so close I could have touched it if I'd had my window down. It looked like a 6 feet tall bipedal coyote. It was thin and lanky and had a deep chest. I could actually see its ribs outlined through its skin. Its fur was damp from the heavy fog in the air. I sped the rest of the way home, about 5 minutes at most. The whole time, I was trying to process what I'd just seen and refused to believe it. When I got home I ran inside and locked the door. I've always been a skeptic, and if someone had described what I'd seen to me, I wouldn't have believed them. I still have a hard time believing what I saw myself. It completely shook my world. I have questioned what I know or think I know since then.
Get in a switch to the passenger seat as Buddy starts driving. Driving again. No stations but Fire and Brimstone Christian on radio. Listen to it anyway. We are drinking coffee from a thermos. Smoking, laughing, life is good. Glance out at road. See a person laying in the road. Yell out, George, look out. He spills coffee and twist wheel. Person head brown on a blended in. Too late for brakes. George swerves halfway off the road. Go up small embankment. Dirt and dust spray into the air. Come back down onto the road violently. Front right tire gets back onto gravel. We come to screeching halt. We both bumped our heads inside the cab. No blood but rattled. Get out of truck to check out tire. Suddenly remember dude laying in road. Head back towards the spot. No street lights. Flashlight is in truck. Go back to get it. Hear George yell, he's up. He's up and running. George has small penlight aimed across a culvert and into a forest of dead trees. I shine the large light and see the same brown color crashing through the dense dead brush. It looked like a tall thin man with a brown cloth folded around his face to conceal his identity. His clothes looked like a rough fur or gunny sack. He ran maybe 100 yards into the trees and then stopped. I got a cold deep fear in my stomach as the dust from our skid filled my mouth and nose. Everything fell silent as we both listened intently. George yells out, hey man, are you okay? The thin man answers. He screams a blood-curdling scream back at us from the woods. Like an animal caught in a trap. We both looked at each other in the flashlights. Turned and without a word sprinted back to the cab. Jumped in and locked the doors. We floored it out of there. My guess was he was trying to commit self-end. He moved too fast to be a drunk passed out in the road. George says it was a Indian trying to make us crash to rob our truck. I didn't unlock my door until we crossed the Oregon border.